Captain Lucas Webb sat in the command chair of the human flagship Columbia and watched the screen in front of him. The ship was flying through empty space, moving toward a meeting that everyone said would be a waste of time. The Galactic Council had called for the humans to come and receive their official welcome. But it was not going to be a warm welcome. Lucas was a man of 45 years. His face was hard and marked by the sun of Earth. His eyes were gray and did not show much emotion. He had been a military officer for 20 years, and he had learned that showing feelings in front of others was a mistake. The soldiers under his command respected him because he was strong and fair. He did not ask them to do anything he would not do himself. The Columbia was the largest ship humanity had built. It was 200 meters long, with weapon systems that the engineer said were very good. But Lucas knew the truth. In the eyes of the galaxy, humanity was nothing. The ships of the Velthians could fly faster. The weapons of the Corvan could hit harder. The technology of the ethereal was 100 years ahead of human science. Lieutenant Martin Cross sat at the communications station. He was young, maybe 30 years old, but he was very smart. He had studied alien languages for years, and he could speak 3 of them. He looked at Lucas with worry in his eyes. "Sir," Martin said, "the Council has sent another message. They are saying the humans should know their place in the galaxy. They are saying that Earth is a small and unimportant world." Lucas did not show anger. He just nodded slowly. "What else?" he asked. "Sir, there are jokes. The other species are laughing. They call us the Death World monkeys. They say we are here by accident. Some are saying the Council made a mistake by letting us join." The Columbia flew on. Behind it came 11 more ships, all that humanity had. The rest of humanity's military power was in orbit around Earth, protecting the home world. Lucas had brought his best officers and his best soldiers. He knew that if the humans made a mistake here, the galaxy would remember it forever. On the world of New Haven, 4,000 light years away, a woman named Amelia Foster was working in her office when the alarm sounded. She was the administrator of the colony, which meant she was in charge of everything. The settlement had 5,000 people. They had been on New Haven for 3 years, building farms and homes and schools. The colony was supposed to grow and become a great human outpost in the galaxy. Amelia was 50 years old. She had gray in her hair and lines on her face. Before she became an administrator, she had been a military officer like Lucas. She had taught soldiers how to fight. She had seen combat. She had learned that the most important thing in war was to think clearly when everything was burning down around you. The message came from the Galactic Council. A species called the Zephyr Collective had claimed the New Haven system as their territory. The humans had 30 days to leave. The Council would not help. The Council said this was a matter between the 2 species. Amelia read the message 3 times. Then she called her senior staff to the meeting room. Dr. Kevin Palmer was the chief scientist. He was a thin man with glasses and very intelligent. Captain Sarah Lincoln was the military commander. She was young but very skilled. Engineer Robert Hughes was in charge of all the machines and systems on the colony. When they were all sitting at the table, Amelia told them the news. The room was very quiet. "We have 30 days," Amelia said. Her voice was calm and strong. "The Council will not help us. The Zephyr Collective is a military species. They have a large fleet. They have attacked other colonies before. What do we do?" Sarah asked. "We do not run," Amelia said. "We do not hide. We prepare." Kevin Palmer looked at her with shock. "You mean we will fight them?" "We mean we will prepare to survive," Amelia said. "We are 5,000 people. We have children, families, homes. We will not give that up without fighting." Sarah nodded. She understood what the administrator was saying. We will need to organize a defense. We can use the terrain. We can use the mountains and the caves. We can make it hard for them. Robert Hughes started making notes. I can work with the engineers. We can build fortifications. We can set up barriers. We can make the colony harder to attack. For the next few hours, they made plans. But Amelia knew they needed help. The colony alone could not defeat the Zephyr Collective. They needed Captain Lucas Webb and the human fleet. She sent a message across 4,000 light-years of space. The message was short. It said, New Haven is under threat. We need you. Come fast. We will not abandon our home. Meanwhile, Lucas Webb was sitting in the council chamber. It was a large room with high walls. The seats were arranged in a circle, and each seat held a representative of a different species. The Velthians sat in the front, their long silver bodies glowing in the light. The Corvins sat with their heavy armor, their eyes sharp and cold. The ethereal floated above their seats, their forms made of light and energy. The human ambassador stood at the center. His name was Director Paul Norton. He was an old man who had worked in government his whole life. He was trying to make them understand that humans deserved respect. Humanity comes from a harsh world, Paul said. We have survived things that would destroy other species. We have the strength and the will to grow into a great power in the galaxy. The Velthian representative laughed. The sound was like music, but it was not kind. Your world is harsh? It said. That is why you are so weak. You have not learned to use technology. You make war like animals. You are not ready for a real war. The Corvin commander spoke next. His voice was deep and heavy. We have seen your ships. They are like toys. We have seen your weapons. They are like the weapons of children. You should go back to your small world and hope that no one notices you again. Lucas felt anger rising in him. He wanted to stand up and speak. He wanted to tell them the truth about humans. But Paul Norton held up his hand. The old man understood that speaking now would only make things worse. That night, Lucas received the message from Amelia Foster. He read it once and then he gave his orders. The 12 human ships would fly to New Haven. The Council had rejected humanity. Now humanity would prove itself in battle. Lucas sent a message back to Amelia. It said, I am coming. Keep your people together. We will show the galaxy what humans can do. The Columbia changed course and jumped to faster speed. The rest of the fleet followed. They were flying toward a battle that everyone said they could not win. They were flying toward a place where they would have to prove that humans were not the joke the galaxy thought they were. In his command chair, Lucas looked at the stars and felt something hard and cold settle in his chest. The galaxy had laughed at humanity. Now humanity would make them remember that laughter was the last mistake you made before humans took everything from you. The Zephyr Collective did not know what was coming. The Galactic Council did not know what was coming. But the humans knew. They were going to show the galaxy the real power of humanity. They were going to show what happened when you pushed a species that had learned to survive on a world that wanted to kill them every single day. The Columbia flew through the darkness of space, and behind it came 11 more ships. Humanity was going to war. The Columbia dropped out of faster-than-light travel 3 days later. The New Haven system appeared on the screens like a small jewel in the darkness. The planet was blue and green and brown. It was a beautiful world. It was also about to become a battlefield. Lucas called his war council to the main conference room. The officers came in and sat around a large table. Captain David Hayes was the tactical commander. He was a thin man with dark skin and sharp eyes. He had fought in 3 wars before joining the human space program. He understood the mathematics of killing and survival. Captain Grace Martinez was the strategic officer. She had a round face and dark hair that was always pulled back tight. She was from Earth, from the country called Mexico. She had studied the movements of the great military leaders of human history. She believed that most battles were won before the first shot was fired. Captain Henry Morgan was in charge of weapon systems. He was a big man with red hair and a loud voice. He had built the weapons on the Columbia himself. He knew every system, every weakness, every strength. Engineer Thomas Shaw was responsible for keeping the ships flying. He was an old man, maybe 60, with gray hair and tired eyes. But he could fix anything. If the engines failed in the middle of battle, Thomas would somehow find a way to make them work again. When everyone was seated, Lucas pulled up the star maps on the big screen. He showed them the New Haven system. He showed them the planets and the asteroids and the empty space. The Zephyr collective fleet is coming, Lucas said. They will arrive in 27 days. Amelia Foster has told us they have ordered the colony to leave. We will not let them take New Haven. How many ships? David Hayes asked. 143 ships, Lucas said. All of them are bigger than our Columbia. All of them have weapons that are more powerful than ours. The room was quiet. 143 ships against 12. It was not good numbers. Grace Martinez spoke next. We cannot win by fighting them head to head. We do not have the strength. We do not have the weapons. We need to think. What do you mean? Lucas asked. I mean, we need to use the things that humans are good at, Grace said. We are good at finding solutions. We are good at adapting. We are good at understanding the enemy. We fight with our minds, not just with our ships. Lucas nodded. This was why he had brought Grace. She understood how to win when you were weak. I have been studying the Zephyr Collective, Grace continued. I have read every report. I have watched every battle. They are strong and they are fast. But they follow patterns. They think like a machine. They do not adapt. They do not think in new ways. David Hayes leaned forward. So we need to break their patterns. We need to do something they do not expect. Exactly, Grace said. They expect us to run or to surrender. They expect the colony to empty or to die. They do not expect us to fight. And if we fight, they expect us to fight in the old way, with ships against ships in open space. Henry Morgan spoke up. Our weapons are not good enough to fight them directly. But we have something they do not have. We have something called creativity. We have people who can think in new ways. I want plans, Lucas said. David, I want you to make a plan for how we move the fleet. I want you to think about how we use the space around New Haven. I want you to think about how we draw them away from the colony. David nodded and started making notes on his computer. Grace, I want you to study their past battles. I want to know where they make mistakes. I want to know what they fear. I want to know what they do not understand. Grace was already typing, pulling up old reports. Henry, I need to know what we can do with our weapons. I need to know if there is any way to make them more powerful. I need to know if there is any way to make them more effective against the Zephyr ships. Henry nodded. I will talk to the engineers. We might be able to modify the power systems. We might be able to push the weapons harder than we have ever done before. Thomas, I need the ships to be perfect. I need them to be fast and strong. I need them to be able to take damage and keep flying. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Thomas said. We will have them ready. The meeting ended, and the officers went to their work. For the next week, the human fleet worked without rest. Engineers modified the weapons. Scientists studied Zephyr technology. Soldiers trained and trained again. On New Haven, Amelia Foster was doing her own work. She called a meeting of all the colonists. 5,000 people gathered in the main hall. The Zephyr Collective is coming, she told them. They are coming to take our world. But we are not going to let them. She divided the people into groups. Some would work on building defense systems. Some would work on moving supplies into the mountains. Some would work on creating shelters that could survive an attack. Some would work on finding new technologies that might help them survive. Amelia found Kevin Palmer in his laboratory. The scientist was studying something on his computer screen. "What are you working on?" Amelia asked. "Something interesting," Kevin said. "I have been reading old human military history. There was a type of shield technology that humans experimented with, but it was never perfected. I think I can make it work." "What kind of shield?" Amelia asked. "A quantum field shield," Kevin said. "It uses the rules of quantum physics to create a barrier in space. It can reflect energy attacks. It can protect against weapons fire. Can you build it?" Amelia asked. "Maybe," Kevin said. "But it would take time, and the power requirements would be enormous. We would need to use almost all the energy that the colony produces." "Build it," Amelia said. "Use what you need. Use who you need. Do not worry about anything else." Kevin Palmer started working with every scientist and engineer on the colony. They worked day and night. They started building the quantum shield. It was a chance. It was maybe not even a good chance, but it was something. Meanwhile, Lucas Webb received new intelligence. His officers had been studying Zephyr transmissions. They had found something important. The Zephyr weapons had a weakness. Once every 90 seconds, their power systems had to recalibrate. For those 90 seconds, they were vulnerable. They could still fire, but their weapons were not at full power. David Hayes saw this and felt something like hope. 90 seconds, he said. That is a window. That is a moment when we can hit them. But we need to know exactly when, Grace said. We need to predict it. We need to time our attack perfectly. I can do that, Martin Cross said. He had been listening to Zephyr communications. He had learned their language and their patterns. I can predict their weapon cycle. I can tell you exactly when they are vulnerable. Lucas looked at his officers. They were tired. They had been working for days without much sleep. But they were not giving up. They were finding solutions. Here is what we do, Lucas said. We use the space around New Haven to hide. We use the asteroids and the planets to block their sensors. We draw their fleet away from the colony. And when we have them where we want them, Martin tells us when they are vulnerable. Then we hit them. All of us, all at once. With everything we have. It is a good plan, Grace said. But we will take damage. We will lose ships. Yes, Lucas said. We will lose ships. We will lose people. But if we do nothing, New Haven will be destroyed. The Zephyr will take the colony and kill the people there. We do not have a choice. We fight. The officers looked at each other. They all understood. They all knew that this battle would define humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. The preparations continued. The ships were made ready. The weapons were charged. The shields were set. The colony built its defenses. And everyone waited for the Zephyr to arrive. 20-7 days passed like hours. Then the alarm sounded. The sensors picked up the Zephyr fleet coming through space. 143 ships, moving toward New Haven. Lucas Webb sat in his command chair and looked at the screen. The enemy was coming. The battle was about to begin. In just hours, everyone would know if humans were as weak as the galaxy believed, or if there was something inside humanity that no one had expected. The Columbia's engines hummed with power. The fleet moved into position. The people of New Haven waited in their shelters. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could really do. The Zephyr fleet came through space like a storm. Their ships were big and dark and built for war. The lead commander sent a message on all channels. The message was simple. It said, "Leave this system in 1 hour or we will destroy you." Lucas Webb did not answer the message with words. He answered it with movement. He sent his 12 ships in different directions. They moved away from the colony, toward the asteroid field to the north of New Haven. The Zephyr fleet followed. They could not let the human ships escape. It was in their nature to hunt. It was in their nature to kill. The battle started in the asteroid field. The Zephyr ships fired their weapons, and the human ships scattered. Energy bolts moved through space like lightning. They hit asteroids and turned them into dust. They hit the edge of the Columbia's shield, and the ship shook with the impact. "All ships, fall back," Lucas said into the radio. "Move to Sector 7. The human fleet moved deeper into the asteroid field. They used the rocks as cover. They used the shadows to hide. They were not trying to fight the Zephyr head-to-head. They were trying to stay alive." David Hayes watched the Zephyr movements on his screen. He called out positions and directions. Every few seconds, he would tell a ship to move. Every few seconds, another asteroid would explode where a human ship had just been. On the bridge of the Columbia, Lucas watched Martin Cross work. The young communications officer was listening to every Zephyr transmission. He was timing their weapons. He was learning their patterns. "Sir," Martin said, "I have the pattern. The weapons cycle every 91 seconds. There is a window of power loss for 8 seconds every cycle." "That is not much time," David said. "It is enough," Martin said. "If we are fast." The Zephyr commander was getting angry. His ships were firing constantly, but they were not hitting many human targets. The humans were too fast. They were too good at running. He sent more ships into the asteroid field. He wanted the human fleet destroyed. He wanted the Columbia burning in space. But Lucas had a plan. He split his fleet into 3 groups. One group, with the Columbia leading, moved to the left. One group moved to the right. One group moved up. The Zephyr fleet had to divide too. They could not chase all 3 groups with their full power. "They are separating," Grace said on the radio. "It is working." Lucas moved his part of the fleet in a large circle around New Haven. He was moving his ships in a way that put them between the colony and the Zephyr fleet. It looked like he was trying to protect the colony. But it was not protection. It was preparation. In the colony, Kevin Palmer's team was finishing the quantum shield. They had used almost all the power from the colony. Every machine that was not necessary had been turned off. Every bit of energy that could be spared had been given to the shield. The machine stood in a building on the highest point of the colony. It looked like nothing special. It was made of metal and wires and computer systems. But inside it, quantum physics was working in ways that had never been done before. The shield generator was ready. "It is done," Kevin said to Amelia. "But I do not know if it will work. I do not know if it will hold." "It will work," Amelia said. "Turn it on." Kevin pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the air above the colony started to move. It moved like heat moving up from fire. It moved like water moving in a river. The quantum field was forming. It was creating a shield above New Haven. The shield was not perfect. It had weak points. It could not hold forever. But it was there. And it would buy time. Above the colony, the Zephyr fleet was moving in. They had not seen the shield yet. They did not know that the humans had built something. The Zephyr commander ordered his ships to move into range of the colony. He was going to destroy it. "Now," Martin said. "The weapons are down now. They are in the power cycle. You have 8 seconds. All ships fire," Lucas said. "All weapons, full power, now." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Every weapon, every gun, every missile. The human ships had been holding their power in reserve. They had been charging the weapons systems. They had been preparing for this moment. The Zephyr ships were hit, hard, fast, by surprise. 4 Zephyr ships exploded. Just like that, gone. The human weapons, fired with perfect timing, had torn through their shields. The Zephyr commander was shocked. How had the humans known the exact moment of the power cycle? How had they known his weakness? But there was no time to think about it. The human ships fired again. And again. The Zephyr ships were fighting back now that they were confused. They had thought they were fighting a weak enemy. They had thought this would be easy. The first Zephyr attack on the colony was met with the quantum shield. The energy bolts hit the shield and bounced off. They did not pass through. They did not hit the ground. The shield held. But the shield was taking damage. It was using more and more power. Kevin Palmer could see it on his monitors. The shield was burning power like fire burns wood. How long? Amelia asked him. 1 hour maybe, Kevin said. After that, the generator will be empty. There will be no more power. Amelia nodded. 1 hour. That was not very long. Above them, Lucas was fighting a different battle. He had found the Zephyr commander. It was on one of the biggest ships, a ship that was 3 times the size of the Columbia. David, I want the Zephyr command ship, Lucas said. It is too big, David said. It will take too many hits. I do not care, Lucas said. I want that ship. I want that commander. The Columbia moved toward the Zephyr command ship. The weapons officer fired everything. The shields on the Zephyr ship held, but they were taking damage. More and more damage. The Zephyr commander sent ships to stop the Columbia. But the human ships were there too. They were fast and smart, and they fought like they had nothing to lose. Because they did not. They had everything to lose. Slowly, the Zephyr fleet was breaking. 97 ships had been destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 3. It was not the numbers that the Zephyr had expected. The Zephyr commander tried to call for reinforcements. But there were no reinforcements coming. There was only his fleet and the humans. Lucas brought the Columbia to within weapons range of the command ship. He fired. The Zephyr ship's shields failed. The weapons tore into the hull. The ship started to break apart. The Zephyr commander was dead. The battle was over. The remaining Zephyr ships tried to jump to faster-than-light speed. But human ships were blocking the hyperspace lanes. They could not escape. They could not run. One by one, they surrendered. They sent messages on all frequencies. They said they would leave. They said they would not attack New Haven. They said they recognized the human fleet as superior. On the bridge of the Columbia, Lucas sat in his command chair and looked at the screens. Around New Haven, the space was full of broken ships. Some were Zephyr. Most of them were. The quantum shield above the colony was still holding. It had used almost all its power, but it had done its job. It had protected the people below. Amelia Foster stood in the colony and looked at the sky above her. The shield was starting to fade. The battle was ending, and the humans had won. The Galactic Council watched this battle from their distant stations. They watched with shock and disbelief. The tiny human fleet had defeated a Zephyr armada. The Deathworld monkeys had shown themselves to be warriors and thinkers and survivors. No one laughed anymore. No one thought humans were a joke. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day. A lesson that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Never underestimate the humans. Never assume they were weak. Because humans were not weak. Humans were warriors. Humans were builders. Humans were survivors. And humanity was just beginning to show the galaxy what it could really do. The battle was over, but the work was not. For 3 weeks, the human fleet stayed near New Haven. They helped the colony repair the damage. They collected the bodies of the fallen. They made sure the Zephyr ships really left and did not come back. The New Haven colony had lost 143 people in the attack. They had died in the first wave, when the Zephyr weapons hit areas that the quantum shield did not fully protect. Amelia Foster stood at a memorial garden and remembered each one of them. They had died defending their homes. They had died because they refused to run. Lucas Webb sent a message to the Galactic Council. The message was delivered through all the official channels. It said, "The Zephyr Collective has left the New Haven system. The colony is safe. The human fleet is ready to defend itself and other human settlements. We ask for recognition of human territory and human rights in the galaxy." The council did not answer right away. They were in shock. They had seen a battle that they thought was impossible. They had seen a small fleet defeat a big fleet. They had seen the humans do something that no one had expected. 2 weeks later, the Ethereal Collective sent a message. It came to Lucas Webb himself. The message said, "The Ethereal Collective requests a meeting with the human commander. We wish to understand how you defeated the Zephyr Collective. We wish to understand your kind." Lucas agreed to the meeting. The Columbia left New Haven and moved toward the station where the Ethereal Collective waited. When the ship arrived, Lucas put on his formal uniform and went to the meeting room. The ethereal representative was a being made of light and energy. It had no body like humans or Zephyr. It was pure energy, held together by some power that humans did not understand. The being floated above the ground and looked at Lucas with what might have been eyes, or might have been something else. "I am the voice of the ethereal," the being said. Its words came as vibrations in the air. "We have studied your species for centuries. We have watched you grow from nothing. We have seen you learn to use technology. But we did not think you were ready for great things. We were wrong." "I do not think we are great," Lucas said. "We are just human. We do what we have to do." "Yes," the voice said. "That is what makes you great. You do not ask why something is impossible. You do not give up because the odds are bad. You look at the impossible and you find a way. That is something rare in the galaxy." The voice floated closer to Lucas. "Earth is a harsh world." "Yes, very harsh," Lucas said. "There are storms and earthquakes and animals that want to kill you. There is disease and hunger and cold that can freeze you to death. That is why you are strong," the voice said. "That is why you think in new ways. Most species in the galaxy are old. We have been alive for so long that we have stopped learning. We do things the way we have always done them. But humans, you are young. You are new. You are still learning. That is your power." Lucas listened to the voice. He understood what it was saying. "The Ethereal Collective wishes to form an alliance with humanity," the voice said. "We wish to help humans grow. We wish to give you the knowledge that we have. In return, we ask that you never forget how to adapt. We ask that you never become old and slow like we have become." "I can speak to my government," Lucas said, "but I believe humanity would accept." The voice moved away. "Good. There is one more thing. There are other species in the galaxy. Not all are good. Not all will be happy about human strength. You must be ready. You must keep your weapons sharp and your minds sharp. Because now that the galaxy knows humanity is strong, some will want to test you. Some will want to prove that you are not as strong as you think." Lucas nodded. He understood this too. After the meeting, Lucas sent messages to Earth. He sent reports to the government. He told them about the offer from the Ethereal. He told them about the warning that other species might try to test humanity. The government on Earth sent back a message. They were proud of what Lucas and the fleet had done. They were ready to accept the Ethereal Alliance. They were also preparing to build more ships. Humanity was going to grow. News of the battle spread through the galaxy. The story was told and retold. In the beginning, it was told as a shock. Then it was told as a wonder. Then it was told as a lesson. The Corvan, who had laughed at humans, began to study what had happened. They watched videos of the battle. They looked at the tactics that Lucas had used. They began to understand that humans had something that they did not have. Humans had the ability to be creative in the middle of a battle. Humans could think of new solutions while they were in danger. The Vulthians, who had said humans were primitive, began to make contact with human scientists. They wanted to understand how humans had created the quantum shield so quickly. They wanted to understand how humans had decoded the Zephyr weapon cycle. Even the Council, which had been so cold to humanity, began to change. The ambassador director Paul Norton was invited to speak again. This time, the room was not full of laughter. This time, people listened. Humanity comes from a world that wants to kill you, Paul said. Humanity has learned to survive things that would destroy other species. Humanity has learned to think in new ways because we have to. We have learned that the impossible is just the next challenge. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us strong. The council listened. Some still feared humanity. Some still did not trust them. But now they respected them. Now they understood that humans were not the joke they had thought. Humans were a new power in the galaxy. The Zephyr Collective sent a message to the council. They said they would pay reparations to New Haven. They said they would never attack a human settlement again. They said they respected human strength. Lucas Webb received the message and felt something like satisfaction. The Zephyr had learned their lesson. They had attacked thinking it would be easy. They had learned that nothing about humanity was easy. On New Haven, the people began to rebuild. They fixed the buildings that had been damaged. They planted new gardens. They brought more colonists from Earth. The colony was going to grow. Amelia Foster stood on the highest point of the colony and looked at the stars. She thought about the people who had died in the battle. She thought about how they had sacrificed so that New Haven could live. She also thought about the future. Humans were no longer the joke of the galaxy. Humans were warriors and builders and thinkers. Humans were a species that other species had to respect. The quantum shield that Kevin Palmer had built was studied by scientists from a dozen different species. They all wanted to understand how it worked. They all wanted to learn from human ingenuity. But Kevin Palmer understood something that others did not. The shield was not special because of the physics. The shield was special because humans had built it when they had to. Humans had made something impossible become possible because they refused to fail. That was what made humans different. It was not the technology. It was the will. It was the refusal to accept that something could not be done. Lucas Webb sat in his quarters on the Columbia and wrote a report. He described the battle. He described the Zephyr tactics. He described the human response. He described how they had won. But the last part of the report was the most important. It said, "We have shown the galaxy what humans can do when we are pushed to our limits. We have shown that we can think and fight and survive. But this is only the beginning. Humans can do so much more. We can build great things. We can create art and music and science that the galaxy has never seen. We can be explorers and peacemakers and teachers." This battle was a small thing compared to what humanity will become. This is only the first step. The report was sent to Earth and to the Council and to every human who wanted to read it. It became a document that defined a moment in history. The moment when humanity proved it belonged in the galaxy. The moment when the galaxy learned to respect humans, and the moment when humans understood that they had just begun their journey. The greatest things were still to come. 1 year passed after the battle for New Haven. the galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. And Lucas Webb was no longer just a captain. He was a legend. The human fleet had grown from 12 ships to 47. More were being built on Earth every month. The colonies were expanding. New settlements were being made on worlds that had once seemed too dangerous. But humans were good at surviving dangerous worlds. Lucas stood on the observation deck of the Columbia and looked at the fleet. The ships moved through space in perfect formation. Each one was strong and well-armed. Each one had a crew that was trained and ready. This was no longer a small fleet that ran from enemies. This was a real military power. Captain David Hayes walked up to him. The tactical officer was smiling. In the past year, David had been promoted twice. He was now the commander of the entire human fleet in the outer regions. Other species were asking for his advice on battle tactics. He was teaching them how humans thought. "The new ships are done," David said. "All 47 are ready for duty. The other 20 are being finished. We will have 67 ships in 3 more months." "Good," Lucas said. "We need to be strong. The galaxy is changing, and we need to be ready for whatever comes." "Do you think there will be more wars?" David asked. "I think," Lucas said, "that there will be times when humanity has to fight. But I hope they will be fewer. I hope the galaxy has learned its lesson. I hope they understand that humans are not the weak species they thought we were." On the planet New Haven, the colony had grown to 15,000 people. The city that was being built was impressive. There were tall buildings and wide streets. There were schools and hospitals. There was a university where human scientists worked with scientists from other species. Amelia Foster was no longer the administrator. She had been promoted to the head of all human colonies in the outer region. She spent most of her time traveling from colony to colony, making sure they were strong and growing. She stood in the New Haven Central Library and looked at the walls. On the walls were the names of the 143 people who had died in the battle. They were remembered. Every person who came to New Haven was told their story. Every child who was born in the colony was taught about the people who had sacrificed so they could live. A young man came up to Amelia. His name was Kenneth Park, and he was a pilot in the new human fleet. He had grown up on Earth and wanted to fly ships. He wanted to explore space and fight for humanity. "Administrator Foster," Kenneth said, "I wanted to thank you. Without what happened here, humans would not have the future we have now. Without the people who died, we would not be free." Amelia nodded. The people who died believed in something important. They believed that a home worth having is a home worth fighting for. They believed that surrender was not an option. That is what made them heroes. Kenneth understood. He saluted her and walked away. He had a ship waiting. He had a mission in the outer systems. He was going to explore new worlds and map new space for humanity. The Ethereal Collective had kept their word. They had given humans access to technology that was thousands of years old. They had shared their knowledge of space travel and energy systems. With this help, humans had accelerated their growth 100 times. But the Ethereal had also given humans something more important. They had given them friendship. The Ethereal treated humans as equals. They respected human intelligence and human creativity. And slowly, other species began to do the same. The Velthians sent a delegation to Earth. They wanted to study with human scientists. They wanted to understand how humans could do science so quickly. How humans could create new things when their technology was not as advanced as others. The answer was simple, and the human scientists told them. Humans could create new things because they had to. Because Earth was a hard world, humans had learned to think about problems in new ways. Humans did not accept that something could not be done. Humans looked for solutions until they found one. The Corvins sent a request to Lucas Webb. They wanted him to teach their military officers how to think like humans. They wanted to learn human tactics and human strategy. Lucas accepted. He sent officers to the Corvin worlds. They taught the Corvin how to adapt, how to think, how to solve problems that had no easy answer. Other species also reached out to humanity. They wanted alliances. They wanted friendship. They wanted to work with humans. Because the galaxy had learned that humans were special. Humans were different. Humans could do what other species could not. On Earth, the government had changed. There was now a Ministry of Space Affairs. This ministry controlled the human ships and the human colonies. They also controlled human science and human exploration. The minister was a woman named Patricia Morgan. She had been a soldier once, but now she was a leader of nations. Patricia stood in her office and looked at reports. The reports showed that human territory was expanding. Human ships were mapping new space every day. Human colonists were settling new worlds. Humanity was growing fast. But Patricia was worried about something. She called Lucas Webb and asked him to come to Earth for a meeting. 3 weeks later, Lucas was sitting in her office. "Captain Webb," Patricia said, "we are growing fast. Very fast. But I am worried. I am worried that we are growing too fast. I am worried that we are making enemies." "What do you mean?" Lucas asked. "I mean," Patricia said, "that not all species want humanity to be strong. Some species have always had power in the galaxy. Some species do not want to share that power with humans. I think there will be more wars. I think we need to be ready." Lucas nodded. He had thought about this too. Then we need to make sure that humanity stays strong. We need to keep our fleet ready. We need to train our soldiers. We need to keep thinking and creating and adapting. That is what keeps us alive. "That is why I want you to lead the fleet," Patricia said. "I want you to be the commander of all human military power. I want you to make sure we are ready for whatever comes." Lucas thought about this. He had already done so much. He had already fought in a great battle. He had already changed the galaxy. But this was important. This was his responsibility to humanity. "I accept," Lucas said. From that day forward, Lucas Webb was the commander of the human fleet. He worked with David Hayes and Grace Martinez and all the other officers. They planned. They prepared. They trained. They made sure that humanity would never be weak again. On New Haven, the memorial garden grew. More names were added as humans fought in other places, against other enemies. Some battles were small. Some battles were large. But humans always fought with courage and with intelligence. The story of the first battle, the Battle of New Haven, was told and retold. It was taught in human schools. It was sung about by human poets. It was painted by human artists. It became part of human culture. It became a moment that defined humanity. And at the center of the story was the lesson that the galaxy had learned. The lesson was simple but powerful. Never underestimate humans. Never think that humans are weak. Because humans are stronger than they look. Humans are smarter than they seem. Humans will do the impossible if they have to. Years passed. Decades passed. Humanity grew and grew. The human fleet became one of the strongest fleets in the galaxy. Human colonies were everywhere. Human scientists were solving problems that had been unsolved for thousands of years. And in all of this, the memory of New Haven stayed important. The memory of the people who had died there stayed important. Because they had shown what humans were capable of. They had shown that when you give humans something worth fighting for, they will move mountains. They will fight impossible battles. They will do things that make the rest of the galaxy stop and think. Lucas Webb grew old. His hair turned gray. His body became weaker. But his mind stayed sharp. On the day he retired, the entire human fleet gathered to honor him. Ships came from every human world. Officers and soldiers came to say thank you. Lucas gave his final speech. He was old now, maybe 70 years old, but his voice was still strong. I came to this job, Lucas said, because humanity needed a defender. I fought in battles because people needed protection. I built a fleet because the galaxy needed to know that humans were strong. But I did not do these things alone. Thousands of humans helped me. Millions of humans made the future possible. This is not my victory. This is humanity's victory. And that is what makes it special. Lucas looked out at the faces of the officers and soldiers. He saw hope in their eyes. He saw the future of humanity. The galaxy is still vast, Lucas continued. There are still unknown worlds. There are still challenges that we do not understand. There are still enemies that we will have to face. But I am not afraid. I am not afraid because I know what humans can do. I have seen humans do the impossible. I have seen humans take a tiny fleet and defeat an armada. I have seen humans create wonders from nothing. I have seen humans be brave and strong and good. He paused. Then he said the words that would be remembered forever. The galaxy once thought humanity was weak. The galaxy once laughed at humans. But now the galaxy knows the truth. Now the galaxy understands. We are not weak. We are not a joke. We are the species that will not give up. We are the species that will do the impossible. We are human. And the best of humanity is yet to come.